My next guest infiltrated Betar USA, which is a revisionist Zionist youth movement, also could be considered a terrorist organization. They often take pride in going around to pro-Palestinian protests or organizations, threatening them with giving them beepers. They're quite radical. Our guest has actually infiltrated this organization and created a documentary, a new explosive film, which you can watch called A Propaganda Film by Betar USA. Adam, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Kim, thank you for having me.
I want to start off with us watching the trailer. So let's watch the trailer of this new film that you just released. Let's go ahead and watch.
There are a lot of things said in the press that are true. There are a lot of things said in the press that aren't true.
There's a group called Betar. Can you confirm whether that organization is providing lists to the Trump administration?
The Trump administration, the work that we're doing, whether it exists or not, I won't confirm.
We can't discuss on camera too much about the specifics of a lot of different things, but of course, Betar submits information to the government.
You are a terrorist! No, you're not. Terrorist! Terrorist! Terrorist!
Dude, get away
Terrorist!
Get away from her.
Betar made a joke about handing a beeper to a terrorist.
I see a beeper as a tremendous sense of Jewish pride now holding a beeper.
Free pages! Free pages!
Who are you to judge us?
Something is going to happen very, very soon.
You who put nails in the coffins of our kids, you who raped us in Kibbutz Be'eri, you who beat us in the streets of New York have nothing to say to us. Because we are the good.
Okay, Adam, tell us about how you got involved. So, first of all, explain to us the name of the film, A Propaganda Film by Betar USA. Why did you name it this? Like as if they're the ones who, I guess they are the ones who kind of put this out because you were working for them at the time, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the idea. They're very concerned, or the head of the organization, Ron Tarosian, is very concerned with their image in the media. And the film I proposed to make to Ron was a PR film. And, to me, PR is propaganda. And, so that's sort of the title of the film, a propaganda film by Betar USA. It's sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek, maybe, but it's kind of just descriptive of the kinds of things that they are getting at in the film. It's also a reference to Israel and Israel's propaganda machine. I see Israel sort of as a weapons factory, but also as a propaganda machine, and it's sort of reflective of my feelings about that.
Okay, so tell us about this organization. I mean, they're pretty extreme. I mean, I don't know if they've definitely done some things that are extremely questionable, like passing out beepers or threatening to give beepers to pro-Palestinian protesters. I think you caught them on camera saying a few extreme things. What would you say? How would you characterize this organization?
They're an extremist group. They're an extremist hate group. If you describe them as a terrorist organization, I don't think you'd be incorrect. I think, if you're talking about, illegally intimidating civilians for political purposes, for political gains, you kind of have a description of this organization. They're extremists. They're extremist Zionists. They're Jewish supremacists, and they formed this organization about a year ago, specifically to intimidate pro-Palestinian activists, mainly college students, organizers who were protesting, Israel's genocide. Their operation is one of harassment. It's what they do. They just harass people online and intimidate them in person.
So how did you infiltrate them?
I sent them an email and asked to join, and I was initially sort of ignored. And once I followed up with my initial email saying that I had, infiltrated the pro-Palestinian movement in Texas, and they immediately responded and were like, "Yeah, here's Yoni's number. Yoni's the social media manager," and then I, had a phone call as a video editing little edits for their Twitter, and sort of becoming closer with Yoni and the head of it, Ron. And then eventually I proposed to make this PR film, this propaganda film that we just saw the trailer of.
So you approached them and said, "I've infiltrated a pro-Palestinian organization," and they're like, "All right, come on board." And in reality, you were trying to infiltrate their organization.
I was, yeah. I mean, I was trying to join and see what they were doing. I mean, they were getting a lot of attention online, and they were going viral for doing these heinous kinds of things, like offering, like you mentioned, offering people beepers. They offered Norman Finkelstein a beeper. They offered Francesca Albanese, the UN Spector, a beeper. They offered Nardine Kiswani, this Palestinian organizer in New York City, a beeper. They were just sort of doing these things, and then they started to profess that they were making lists of U.S. citizens that they were, and people on green cards, and all sorts of people that they were sending to the government in order to for them to be detained and then deported. And that piqued my interest, and I wanted to join and see how that worked and what they were actually doing.
Did you actually infiltrate a pro-Palestinian group as well?
No, no.
Okay. Just wondering, if you were infiltrating both. Okay, so you get into this organization, and what did you discover about them that, I mean, like you said, we've been seeing some stuff coming from them that's quite aggressive and inflammatory, and they're definitely trying to rile people up. And it is shocking that they're not being hindered. I mean, you've got these pro-Palestinians that are being detained, some that they've taken credit for, like Mahmoud Khalil. I believe they took credit for getting him arrested. The Palestinian activist with a pregnant wife. He was here on a green card. I believe he's still here, and I think he's out now. But they took credit for him and other pro-Palestinian activists that they were hunting down and kind of creating cases and sending it into the government. What did you do? I mean, besides those things that we knew, did you find that they were like, what is their MO? Are they Americans? Are they saying that they're defeating anti-Semitism? Are they blatantly pro-Israel? What would you say you learned when you were inside?
I would say, because this piece that I've made is not an expose in the sense that I've revealed anything new necessarily that they were doing, they were pretty vocal about all the things that they were doing, whether they were true or not. I didn't see anything that they did in secret that they were hiding, and that goes to the fact that they're a pretty shameless group that's trying to promote themselves as the most militant Zionist organization. They are proud of that fact. They want to be seen as the Jews who fight back. So they're not in secret doing anything really that they wouldn't brag about online. In their group chats, they're saying crazy stuff, but this is what these kinds of people say. So it wasn't like I went inside and I was like, oh, they're doing all these things. It was more just like, oh yeah, well, this is the obvious stuff that they'd be saying about Muslims, mainly. But yeah, it wasn't. It's not expose in that sense to me.
So basically, you were able to just confirm that they actually do. This is what they think. These are the types of things they do. These are the things they say, and they're proud of it.
Yeah, they want to be feared. they want to present themselves as a group that is that you should essentially fear. And they profess to have sent the government hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names. The only court document showed that they were maybe responsible for one detainment, a Turkish person named Eve Ursulik. I'm probably mispronouncing the name. But other than that, it's sort of, this is why, again, the name of the film is a propaganda film by Betar USA, because they intentionally blur the lines of what is true and what is not true, what they profess to do, what they actually do, what their actual power is. It's undetermined, but they are trying to present themselves as a group that is well organized and very close to power.
Did you find that they were well organized and close to power when you were inside?
They are incredibly organized. They, it's not a large organization by any means. It's pretty much just Ron. And he has a variety of connections to power. He definitely is close to the Trump administration in some sense. He is the biggest donor. He was the biggest donor to Mayor Eric Adams. He hosted Eric Adams's victory party in 2021. He was the biggest donor to Richie Torres, the representative from the Bronx. He was on a pickup basketball team with Chris Cuomo. He has a variety of connections to power.
So he's really wealthy, this guy that started this organization.
Ron is incredibly wealthy, yes.
Okay. How did he make his money? Do you know?
I mean, I can't speak on that. I don't know.
Okay. And when they've seen this film that you've made.
Yeah, they have seen it. Ron personally texted me that he was watching it now in Israel at the Jabotinsky headquarters, the Jabotinsky Institute. I think that was a little bit of like an intimidation, but also, the concept behind this film was to make something that a normal person would be like repulsed by, but a member of Betar, Ron, would maybe accept, because I'm not critiquing them necessarily. I'm just kind of showing them in sort of a transparent light, and the risk was like for a group like this, any press is good press. When Gray Zone released it on their Twitter, Betar commented, "This is great promo. Fund us now." And then they posted their GoFundMe link. But they are going to do that publicly. How they feel about it, on their own is, I can't say. I personally, I'd bet they're pretty pissed. Although they are extremists, they have some amount of common sense, a limited amount, but I'm sure they can see, like, yeah, this was not a good thing to have out about us, specifically certain parts about.
Yeah. So you're not editorializing on this. Like, you're just showing them how the things they say, asking questions, letting them answer those questions. You're not spinning it or editing it in any way. You're just showing how they are and how they're proudly this way.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I think it would be a lie to actually say that I'm doing that totally. If you're making something, you have a long interview and then you can cut it up, and you can leave out certain things. And so there's nothing like purely non-editorial. It's not. There were a lot of questions about Jabotinsky, who started this group called Betar in 1923, and there's a whole history there that is not included in the film. And it's not included in the film because I don't, this iteration of Betar USA, Ron is doing everything he can to relate it back to Zev Jabotinsky in an effort to legitimize his group, as if it's not some, militant street group that is harassing people and committing crimes. He and the decision to not include that history is a deliberate one because I think it legitimizes his organization. So, like, something like that is an editorial decision. But for the most part, the idea was just to like let Yoni and let Ron speak about their organization and their belief.
What are their goals moving forward, do you think?
Well, since Mamdani won, they're they want to, well, let's put it this way: they goal is to get Jews to move to Israel, for Jews to make Aliyah, to leave New York, and to move to Israel. And this is something that can be your goal forever because it's never going to happen. So you can kind of always have that in reach or in your in your horizon. But like as to their specific operations, like there's not many pro-Palestinian protests going on, across the U.S. right now, which is a shame. I think it's actually it's a huge shame that that's not happening daily. But that being said, they don't have much to do regarding that because that was their main operation. So I don't know exactly what their plan is going forward.
But you do know they want Jews to move to Israel. Are they Americans?
They have dual citizenship. Oh,
But you would
Ron and Yoni
say,
have dual citizenship.
okay, they have dual citizenship. Do you think that they're more loyal to Israel than the United States? I mean, do you feel like they think Israel's our country and we're trying to get everybody to Israel? And that's what it kind of sounds like.
For Ron, yeah. I can't speak on the members of their group and their loyalty, and I think that Ron would favor Israel over America. He speaks much fonder about Israel and Israelis than he does about America and American Jews. He has a bit of a distaste for them.
Okay. For American Jews?
For the liberal class of American Jews, yeah.
Even though he wants them to move to Israel? Do you think he wants them to move to Israel or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a, there's contradictions all over the place here.
Yeah. Tell us about the two that are in the film. From my understanding, they are actual settlers. They've been involved in stealing homes from Palestinians in the West Bank.
Yeah. So, Ron, when he was younger, in the 90s, worked with the Teret Kohanim, which is a Kahanist organization founded by Meir Kahana's brother, Benjamin Kahana, that worked to settle settlements to destroy Palestinian homes. And Ron worked with that organization. He bought bulldozers to create a settlement called Har Homa. He purchased bulldozers in order to progress that, and he and Yoni have a specific sort of connection regarding that because Yoni is a settler as well. In the film, there's a Zoom call that I recorded where Yoni is at a not a settlement but an outpost. These sorts of an outpost that it precedes settlement. You create a illegal outpost that becomes a settlement, and Yoni is in one of these outposts, and he's sort of like, for dramatic effect, he's kind of like in the corner saying like, yeah, we're guarding this outpost, And Ron goes on this dramatic speech about how if you keep that land and you get down plumbing and you create facts on the ground, that's going to stay Jewish, and if not, it becomes Arab. And so they both are settlers who promote this kind of ideology. This Kahanist ideology is what it is. It's a Kahanist ideology. They're both Kahanists.
What do you think is the most shocking thing about them? I mean, it sounds to me like, why is this to me, it's shocking that this organization isn't, they're going around threatening people with beepers. And trying to give, I think, did they put one in Norm Finkelstein's pocket or something, or they were trying to put one in his pocket?
Yeah, they put one in right in his breast pocket while he was walking down the streets of New York City.
Right. How is that not a terrorist threat? A threat of terrorism. I mean, it's amazing to me that I feel like if a Palestinian were to have done this, if Hamas was the one that actually pulled off the beeper operation, and they had blown up a bunch of IDF soldiers with beepers, I think any pro-Palestinian student or anybody that went around putting beepers in Jewish pockets, for example, Zionist pockets, they would be cracked down on. And it's shocking to me that these guys are able to get away with this and threaten beepers and not have anything happen to them.
Yeah, there's no accountability. Of course, there's a double standard. They're a nonprofit. They're registered as a nonprofit, and they're getting away with these kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, pro-Palestinian students were getting detained for co-authoring, pieces that were in the film, the main video of this Turkish student getting detained, the CCTV footage that you see is Rameza Ozturk, and her crime was co-authoring a piece in Tufts Daily that was just asking the president of Tufts to recognize these resolutions that got passed by the Tufts Community Union Senate. So it's not even like it's like this big, it's not even like an op-ed that's violently, anti-Israel, which would be well within her right to write. But it was just this piece that was enough to mark her and to get her detained in an ICE facility for a month and a half. And so, there's a double standard. And of course, there's no comparison about, if it was the other side and what would be happening. Of course they wouldn't get away with it. No, it's complete immunity, and it's complete immunity that's reflected to Israel. I mean, like Betar gets away with what they get away with, and people online get away with saying heinous things against Palestinians and against pro-Palestinian supporters in the U.S. Calling for their deaths and those kinds of things. But look at what Israel has full impunity. There's been no accountability for what they've done over the past 2 years, because they're still doing it. They're still doing it with full impunity, and so it just reflects the larger framework to me.
At one point in the film, the older guy, what's his name again?
Ron.
That's Ron. Yeah. At one point in the film, Ron is talking about a car bomb and maybe being responsible for the threat of a car bomb against, I believe, Antonio Gutierrez, I believe. Can you explain that?
So what's being referenced there is a car bomb threat against Zoran Mamdani.
Oh, against Zoran Mamdani. Okay.
Yeah, this guy was threatening Zoran with a variety of threats. One including, check your beeper, beep beep kind of thing. That Ron and Yoni were discussing whether or not that was a Betar member, whether or not Betar was responsible for that, and they're sort of laughing about it and they're joking about it. And what the argument Yoni's making is that Ron himself threatened Antonio Gutierrez with a beeper.
Okay.
That sequence, or that segment, is in the film as well. Yoni is making a sin because Ron is saying that it would be bad if Betar had threatened Zohran Mamdani with a, but Yoni's making the point, that you already did that. So what's the difference? Like, why, this is the conversation that they're having. Yeah.
So they're just like, oh yeah, maybe somebody threatened him. Maybe it was one of ours. Oh, that's bad. Not really. Remember, you did that to Antonio Gutierrez. So, like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and then they're real,
no big
and then they're real sketched, out about me being in the room with a camera, and then they to speak in Hebrew and say, who is this guy? Is he with us? What's the deal?
Do you speak Hebrew?
I do not speak Hebrew. No.
Would have been helpful if you did, but you just pretended like you didn't.
Right. Well,
Could have been
no,
one of those
I mean,
moments.
it would have been. I think it would have been detrimental, actually, if they thought I did speak Hebrew, because they would have just kept it to themselves, So it actually,
Mhm.
it might have served the film a little bit.
Oh, right. Yeah. That they just switched
Yeah.
languages. And it's like, of course, you could get that translated, like as if, like as if you can't. Where can people watch this film? How long is it? Where can people watch it?
This film is 49 minutes long. It is on the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone thankfully distributed it. Max Blumenthal took a chance on this film and put it out on his platform, and I'm very grateful to him to have done that.
Yep. Max is great. Well, we do have the link down below to the film, so people can check out the full thing and get to know this organization and what they're really about. I think it's important for people to know how extreme a lot of the viewpoints actually are. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about the Israel Palestinian conflict, they'll just say, well, the only reason why the Israelis are like that is because the Palestinians want to kill them all. If it weren't for those Palestinian terrorists, then there would be no problems. And there's quite a few people who have that viewpoint where they just think it's all Palestinians' fault and that they're the aggressive ones, they're the harassers, they're the problem. But they see a film like this and it maybe will help shift their worldview a bit and to realize, no, it isn't just one side can't live alongside the other. There's a lot more to this, and there's extremists on the Jewish side as well, and that's I think that's not showcased much, and it's good that you took the risk and that you decided to showcase this. Have you had any sort of consequences because of this?
No, nothing has happened to me. No, I don't think anything will happen to me. There's no consequences because, again, I don't think they view it as necessarily like as an expose that they have to deal with in any sense, because, again, like, this refers to their immunity, and like that they probably won't get in trouble for this for any of the things that they've said or done, and so because there's no accountability, I don't think there will be any consequences for me, unless someone does something crazy. But I also, I just want to say, like, this happens to be a particularly extremist Zionist organization, and it's like similar to like Louis Theroux, like with his settlers documentary, where you talk to extremist West Bank settlers, and then the argument is always, oh, well, why can't you talk to normal Israelis? And probably the criticism of this might be, oh, well, why don't you just talk to normal Zionists? And personally, to be honest, I think anyone who's a Zionist at this point is an extremist. I think anyone who, liberals included, liberal Zionists, quote unquote, included, they're all Jewish supremacists, and this is an ideology that has killed so many people and continues to every day. And I don't want to paint Ron and his organization as this like unique aberration of the ideology, because I don't think it is. And so I'd like to clarify that to say that this organization is not unique. I mentioned that it was a nonprofit, but there's plenty of nonprofits that send money to Israel and to the IDF and to fund West Bank, settlers, settlements. This is not a unique organization, and like also, in addition, like the ADL, like some people think as like of the ADL as this sort of like left, or like liberal organization. I mean, not so much anymore, but this is an organization that laid the groundwork for Betar to create lists of people, of pro-Palestinian activists in order to, detain and deport them. The ADL was spying on pro-Palestinian activists since the 60s. They created gigantic lists, over 10,000 names on lists to detain and deport them. And they sent that list to the U.S. government. They sent that list to Israel. So I only mention that to say that like Betar is not this like unique kind of group that they have a shameless attitude. They're very proud of themselves, the things that they do, but there's nothing like particularly unique about them.
I unfortunately agree with you. I have a lot of I have some friends who they're Zionist. I would not say that they're nearly as extreme sounding as these, as Ron or anybody that you would see in this film at Betar. But when you talk to them, they do that. The thinking slips out, in the conversation. It'll be, yeah, all of the Palestinians have got to go. It's and you say, okay, but where? And then they shrug their shoulders and they're like, however they go, whether it's through, we deport them all or kill them all, like whichever one, that's with somebody not at all who I would consider on the surface a genocidal, extremist type person, but that ideology is there underneath all. And I think that's the hard part, and I think it's important to also say that this is human nature. We all have it in us. I mean, that's what Nazi Germany taught us, right? This is not like a uniquely Israeli or Jewish thing. This is, Nazi Germany, the German people who are bright people, caring people, loving people, and they still fell into this. And we see this also with Ukrainians. There's some of these nationalist ideologies where they fall into this. And I think it's important for people to remember that this is human nature, and we have to work really hard to not allow ourselves to kind of reel into this. And I see it even happening here in the United States. I see little glimpses of it coming out with groups that have a certain idea about maybe certain immigrants or whatever. And they'll, we have to guard ourselves as human beings to not allow ourselves, it's fear-based. It's usually always fear-based. And it stems from that. And that fear develops into hate, which then develops into just genocidal thinking, murderous genocidal thinking. And that is, it's unfortunately human nature. We have to prevent ourselves from reeling into that. And if you fearmonger a group enough, if you tell like all the Jewish people and you say it long enough and often enough that you're in danger, people want to kill you, your life is in danger, and you keep saying that over and over, everybody gets it's me or them. I think everybody believes in self-defense. I think that the vast majority of people in the world believe it's okay to kill if they're trying to kill me. And I think that's a reasonable position. If somebody were to break into my house, I'd say, yeah, I mean, if they're here to kill me, I could kill them. It's my self-defense. It's my right. And maybe I'd feel bad about it after they were killed, but I would still be like, well, it was either me or them. And I think that's totally and completely human nature. And so, but I do think that, the reason why so many Zionists have fallen into that genocidal way of thinking, even if they're not as blatant and obvious as Ron and Betar USA, is just that fear-based, that fear, the constant fear of it's either you or them. And it unfortunately breeds that extremism in the brain. And Yeah, then we have to work hard to somehow dismantle it, and that's the big thing is we've got to work hard to somehow dismantle it. But it can't be dismantled if with the Germans we were able to dismantle the Nazi thinking because we were able to get them to admit they were wrong and for them to feel that shame and for them to say, "Oh no, that was really awful to do." And so now they have that shame and they have that desire to change that thinking, but we're not there yet, unfortunately, with the Zionist movement. Too many people think it's okay.
Well, with Israel, every generation is more extreme than the next. But in America, with respect to American Jews, this over the past 2 years have shown me that many people choose loyalty and tribalism over basic humanity. They're more they're more concerned with their group, their in group, than not even like empathy, just basic humanity. Nothing complicated, nothing extreme, just basic humanity. They have made a decision, and it will have consequences. But I think there are many who, disagree, I guess, with that, and are devastated by what they've seen over the past 2 years, and to this day, again, like I will repeat that this genocide is still ongoing. The ceasefire is not a ceasefire. Palestinians are being killed every day. Their homes are being bulldozed every single day. There's still a siege. There's a million bottles of baby formula that's being blocked because they could potentially be weapons. I mean, it's absolutely absurd, and rational people will see that absurdity and not come to the obvious conclusion because, again, they've made their choice. They've made their choice about what they're interested in saving, and So I just want your. I'm sure you talk about it on your program, but I just want to say that people should continue to support Palestinians in Gaza through whatever means they can. I would like to plug a few resources if that's okay with you.
Sure.
The Lifeline for Gaza is a website that orders. They put campaigns in a specific order based on when the last time someone donated to them was. There's Rebuild Gaza 24, which builds water wells in northern Gaza. And then there's trahome.org, trahom.org, that it's a orphan sponsorship program that provides aid and housing for orphans in Gaza. And, this, I just wanted to put those resources there. Sorry to take up so much time for that. But I think that people have kind of moved on a little bit because there's this kind of like nice word that we can use to say that things have ended. But of course, the reality is that it hasn't ended. It hasn't ended by any means. And there's been no accountability. There was no accountability for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, for Boston
Right.
Consulting Group that set that up. They just dismantled and disappeared overnight, and there's no accountability. That organization is responsible for the death of over 2,500 starving civilians, and
Yeah.
over 10,000 injured. And they would kidnap children, like they and so there's so many aspects to this genocide that even mentioning one or two is just will always be insufficient, and it would require much more time to sort of get into all of it, of course. But I just think that it's important that people can watch this documentary if they want to. I think it's an interesting representation, display of a reactionary militant group. But people should really focus on the Palestinians in Gaza, Palestinians in the West Bank, and Sudan, and what the UAE is funding and doing. The UAE is committing genocide in Sudan, and so people should focus on these kinds of things as well.
Adam, thank you so much for your work. Again, we do have the link down below to your film that was published out by the Gray Zone. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your great work.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.